This video is going to go over why the INTJs love the ISFJs. And personally speaking, I can't imagine my life without ISFJs. I have an older brother that's an ISFJ and a younger brother that's an ISFJ. And I have been surrounded by ISFJs ever since I can remember. I'm going to provide real world examples, and I'm going to use cognitive functions to explain why the dynamic works the way it does. Because this isn't scripted, my videos might be a little abstract, so if it doesn't make sense, just leave a comment below and I'll answer the best that I can. I think the best way to explain how much I care about you guys is to provide a few examples of my experience with ISFJs. The first example that comes to mind is an ISFJ friend that I made when I was in the military. We were both out driving one night and we got into an accident. No one was hurt, but the car was totaled. He was freaking out. As an ISFJ, he didn't want to get in trouble, and if you're in the military, anytime you do something wrong, you're gonna get in trouble. Had to calm him down, and then I created this plan, this idea. We told the command, the plan and idea, we never got in trouble, we never got caught. I personally learned empathy from an ISFJ ex-girlfriend of mine. I remember chasing her for years, and I'll never forget the first day I laid eyes on her. My memory of her is like a scene from a movie. I remember time slowing down, I remember exactly what she looked like, what she wore, and for some reason, I remember sparkles going around her. I have another ISFJ that planned a weekend getaway for an ENFJ friend and myself because the ENFJ lived away from Seattle and I lived away from Seattle, and then we both decided to move back at the same time. She missed us so much that she planned a trip for the three of us. And the last example that I have right now is that I was at a club one day and an ISFJ friend of mine yanked another girl's hair when that girl tried to push me. And I'm going to be completely honest, I deserved it. Not because I was being a creep to her, but because her boyfriend was being rude to my ISTP friend. And no one messes with my friends. I admit it was 100% my fault, but I love the fact that the ISFJ, without hesitation, defended me. The main point of all those examples is that every single example that I provided was a completely different ISFJ. ISFJs have always been part of my life. It's not that I seek you guys, it's just whenever I meet you guys, if anything, are comforting. It makes sense when we start looking at cognitive functions because we don't share the same functions. And if you look at how our functions are stacked, we are the exact opposite of each other. INTJs have NI in their first stack, and on our eighth stack we have SI, whereas ISFJs lead with SI in their first stack and NI in their last stack. So get ready, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to explain why INTJs love the ISFJs and why we're such a good match for each other. Before I begin with the rest of the video, I want to make sure I point this out so I don't forget. ISFJs, you guys are the most attractive people for an INTJ. I don't know if other types feel the same way about you guys, but man, whenever I see an ISFJ or whenever I see a lady that's very attractive, 9 times out of 10, she's an ISFJ. And it makes sense too because of cognitive functions, but I'll go into that later in this video. You guys have a certain swagger to you that's very unique to an ISFJ, and it shows in the way that you guys dress, and it shows in the way that you guys present yourself. You guys are so fucking attractive, guys and girls. Now on with the rest of the video. As mentioned earlier, I have an older brother that's an ISFJ and a younger brother that's an ISFJ. So I've seen every single side of an ISFJ. I've seen you guys when you guys are at your best, and I've seen you guys when you guys are at your worst. And honestly, after 35 years, I still have a difficult time understanding you guys. I understand the way you guys operate, but it doesn't make sense for me. I don't know if ISFJs feel the same way about INTJs, but it really feels like you guys are speaking a foreign language. Whenever one of us talk, the other type has a difficult time following. And it's because the things that we care about, the other type seems to neglect. Which is interesting to me because I have an ISFJ friend who adopted me, an INTJ male, and a friend of ours, an INTJ female, and she doesn't see how similar we are. It's so funny that she doesn't see she adopted 2 INTJs. And for me, I see it clear as day. Which I think is a good segue to talk about the next topic, ISFJ stereotypes. The ISFJ's title is the defender. And I agree with that. You guys really do take care of people, and you guys take care of people very often. And the reason why I say that is because as an INTJ who has extrovert thinking in my second slot, we do the same thing as well, but we take a different approach when it comes down to taking care of people. You guys are so quick when it comes down to defending a tribe, especially when someone's feeling is hurt. And I appreciate that. Because as an INTJ, I'm trying to figure out why it happened so I can fix that so it doesn't happen again. But the way that you guys approach it is that you guys approach it head on for face value. Because this person did this, you're going to respond with this. The way an INTJ looks at it is that, why did a person do this? And if we can figure out why they did that, then we can correct it so it never happens again. They're both trying to protect someone, just completely different approach. Adding on to that stereotype, ISFJs are also known to be very people-focused, very tribe-focused. You guys try your best to bring harmony to the group, which is true. Even when you guys are going through your edgy, I don't give a fuck bad bitch attitude, you guys have a very difficult time making selfish decisions. I'm not saying you guys don't make selfish decisions. What I am saying is that it doesn't feel comfortable for you guys to make selfish decisions when other people are involved. And again, all that will be explained when we start talking about cognitive functions and how an ISFJ operates. Now let's talk about the dynamic between the two of us. And it's very interesting because, again, it may seem as if we're completely different people, but we kind of want the same objective. When it comes down to it, we want to take care of each other. One of the things I noticed about this relationship is that ISFJs really do take care of the INTJs when it comes down to our sensory needs. And I'm not saying that INTJs are so dumb when it comes down to the sensory world that we'll starve, which we do sometimes. What I am saying is that we complement each other when it comes down to the extreme. The INTJ is very good at forward thinking, but sucks when it comes down to dealing with the world right now. Whereas the ISFJ is very comfortable with thinking about the now, building comfort, and not the best when it comes down to thinking about the future. The future stresses you guys out. And I think the biggest difference between both of our type is that the world that we currently live in values emotional responses, something that ISFJs are really good at. You guys are great at providing positive affirmation. You guys are okay with telling people that they look good. You will tell the people that you love them, and you will not shy away from any type of emotional connection or emotional conversation. That's what society thinks taking care of someone is like. What we will do is make sure that if you want to engage with some type of self-improvement, such as reading more books throughout the year, stop drinking, or any type of vice, we will make sure that you have a plan and a system in place so that you stop doing it. I originally thought the ISFJs thought INTJs are just completely incompetent when it comes down to take care of ourselves, which kind of makes sense because when you think about both types comparatively, the way that ISFJs treat yourselves is completely different from how the INTJs treat ourselves. INTJs don't really put much thought into this human flesh vessel that we have. Whereas the ISFJs, you guys will do everything you can to engage with it. And that difference manifests our relationship in so many different ways. The stereotype of ISFJs bringing food for other people, it is amplified whenever an ISFJ has to deal with an INTJ. INTJs are okay with a low maintenance lifestyle. We don't need much to make us happy. Whereas ISFJs need certain things in order to be happy because it brings them comfort, and low maintenance lifestyle doesn't make sense to them. So you guys will buy stuff or be surrounded by things that brings comfort. And then when you look at the INTJ, you guys are like, what are you doing with your life? That explains the comfort difference. Now let's talk about what INTJs care about the most. Growth. ISFJs are more okay with doing the same thing, eating in the same restaurant, going to the same places, hanging out with the same people, living in the same city. Whereas INTJs thrive in growth. We seek growth. Whenever we are in a situation where it's stagnant, we will create problems so that we continue to grow. So whenever an INTJ sees an ISFJ that's so happy in the way that they're living life, it doesn't make sense for us. But a healthy INTJ will learn to respect it, similar to how a healthy ISFJ will learn to respect an INTJ's need for improvement. It's never going to fully make sense for either of us, but we have to accept that. And the moment that we accept that the other type is better at something that we lack, the moment we can actually engage with each other as human beings. And a dynamic that doesn't get spoken about a lot when we talk about the INTJ or ISFJ relationship is that each type is willing to do something that the other type isn't. An INTJ is more than willing to go against the tribe. More often than not, that's usually what happens. And usually other types, whenever they see an INTJ do that, they think we're very selfish, that we don't care about the tribe. But an ISFJ will always welcome back an INTJ with open arms. And then where the INTJ helps the ISFJ is that we will do shit that we know is necessary. We both know that something needs to get done. We both know that certain things need to be said. The ISFJs are more than likely not going to go against the tribe, whereas the INTJ is more than willing to say what's on our mind. But because the INTJ is willing to do that, it fixes the problem. Again, it might not fully make sense to you in that moment, but the moment that an INTJ or an ISFJ start believing in the strength of the other type, you'll trust that the other type is doing something that's necessary and will improve the life of the tribe. It could be something as simple as calling someone out for their bullshit, or it could be something extreme as in telling the entire group we are not going to do something because it is not safe, even though everyone thinks it's safe. Now let's talk about cognitive functions. As mentioned earlier, we don't share any of the same cognitive functions and they're completely swapped. So for ISFJs, INTJs might feel like we're aliens. And for INTJs, you guys feel like aliens. Both of our dominant functions are the exact opposite of each other. INTJs lead with introverted intuition, whereas ISFJs lead with introverted sensing. In a nutshell, when it comes down to common sense, INTJ will typically steer towards what's new, what's innovated, and how can we fix future problems. Whereas ISFJs are more focused on comfort, what is now, and what have we done before in order to fix this problem. That is the biggest difference between us. INTJs are more focused on the future and neglects the here and now, whereas ISFJs are more focused on the here and now and neglects the future. But that's an extreme way of looking at it because we're both judging types. Therefore, we both make plans. It's just the way and the type of plans that we make are completely different. So a lot of misunderstandings happen because of NI and SI. When an INTJ says all these grandiose things that isn't rooted in the world right now, because we have to make a lot of inferences. This has to happen and this has to happen in order for this to happen. And even if we explain it to the ISFJ, because those things haven't happened yet, it still doesn't make sense to them. And whenever an ISFJ comes up with a solution to a plan and they use past knowledge, things that have already worked, the INTJs will look at those plans and see all the flaws in things that have worked and see that there are ways to improve it. So it doesn't make sense for an INTJ to use something that has already worked that can continue to be better if we just implement one more step. Our second cognitive function is the reason why we appreciate each other so much. For an ISFJ, your second cognitive function is extroverted feeling, whereas for an INTJ, our second cognitive function is extroverted thinking. Both of these functions are people functions. These functions are used to demonstrate how we care about someone. So the ISFJs will take care of the tribe by providing emotional support, emotional validation, making sure that the people feel safe around them. When an ISFJ hears that someone that they care about is going through something difficult, they will cook food that they like. They will make sure that their voices are heard. They will take care of them to make sure that they will become emotionally stable. Whereas for an INTJ, our approach is a lot different. We're not going to provide that emotional support. What we will do is listen to you and make sure we understand what is causing you the most amount of pain. If it's something that we can fix, we're going to fix it. And if we don't know how to fix it, we're going to figure out how to fix it. No problem for an INTJ cannot be solved, but we won't provide that emotional support. So an INTJ will fix your house, will fix your car. We will do everything in our power to make sure that whatever is causing you discomfort is fixed. I said this in a previous video before about extroverted thinking, but the biggest difference between extroverted thinking and extroverted feeling is that we want the same thing. The conclusion is still that person is in a better place, but our approach is different. An INTJ will approach it first fixing a problem to make sure that that person's emotion stabilizes, whereas for an ISFJ, you guys first make sure that that person is emotionally stable and then you guys work on fixing the problem. Same conclusion, different approach. And our types see that. We know something is weird, we know something is off, but we also know that that person is taken care of one way or another. It's something that we can't really explain. It's something that we kind of scoff at most of the time, like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But once we see the results, that's when we start appreciating the other type. That's when we start appreciating the other person, because we both see that the other type cares about the people that we care about. Then it comes down to a third cognitive function. And I know I said that NI and SI is where most of the misunderstanding comes from, but this is where we get hurt. This is when the INTJs seem as if we're the emotional type, and the ISFJ seems as if you guys are the more logical type. INTJs have introverted feeling, which means that we have a value system that most people will never fully understand. No matter how many times we express it, it still won't make sense for you because you are not us. It is very internal, and a lot of time it goes against logic. Whereas ISFJ, you guys have introverted thinking. So your guys' logic system has to make sense for you guys as well. But that doesn't necessarily include feelings. So whenever an INTJ is very adamant about something because we feel so strongly about it, and you question what we value based off of logic, and we can't explain it to you guys logically, there's going to be a disconnect there. You guys are going to think the INTJs are ridiculous because we're not using logic, whereas the INTJ will get upset because you guys are hurtful towards us. And then on the opposite end, because INTJs have extroverted thinking, we're going to try to logic your logic system. We're going to say shit that makes sense for us in an extroverted thinking way, using external data that goes against your internal framework, how you interpret logic. So the INTJ will continue to upset the ISFJ because we're using extroverted thinking. We're trying to fix problems for you. But for ISFJs, it can't be fixed until it's fixed internally first, and then we can use external data in order to fix that problem. We're going to be misunderstood, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen between our types. This is the best example of agreeing to disagree, because we're never going to fully understand where the other person's coming from. It goes against our value or logic system. Therefore, no amount of time or effort that we put in to try to understand the other person will make sense. Now let's go to the last cognitive function, where we are both the superhero for the other type. The last function for an ISFJ is extroverted intuition, whereas for an INTJ is extroverted sensing. Majority of the time, it stresses the ISFJ out whenever you guys have to think about things that aren't there yet. Think about the future, make plans for things that doesn't have any concrete evidence to base anything off of. Things such as planning for a trip, planning for a party, or planning for an externality that you don't know what will happen or not. And that's where the INTJ comes in, because that's where the INTJ lives and breathes. We do that without even thinking. our subconscious is telling us, hey, this is most likely going to happen based off of all the things that we see right now. So we trust that. So a healthy ISFJ that has a healthy INTJ, you guys will trust us because there's something about the way that we engage the world that doesn't make sense to you, makes sense for us. And then when you look at previous data, the INTJ's plans tend to work out. And then looking at it from the INTJ's perspective, we have extroverted sensing in our 4th slot. We suck at taking care of ourselves. This shirt, these shoes, this Just Call Me John light up were all given to me by ISFJs. When I moved, my ISFJ sister-in-law bought me all these like seasoning that she knew I wouldn't have. INTJs, again, are very low maintenance and we ignore the external world. But comfort matters so much for the ISFJ that you guys will take care of the INTJ because you know we're not going to take care of ourselves. Because you know we're not going to focus on it most of the time. And I can personally say that I don't go shopping for clothes much because I always get clothes from my ISFJs during the holidays. So I have clothes. Why do I need to buy something else? The last thing I want to add about extroverted sensing is that that's the reason why ISFJs are so attracted to INTJs. I said this before and I'll say this again. You guys are the most attractive types out there. I love looking at you guys. Think about it this way. Extroverted sensing is about the external world. It's taking things for what they are. Hey, this is what beauty standards are in the world. INTJs are very aware of that even though we don't engage with it much. And then you have an ISFJ who leads with introverted sensing and have extroverted feeling. So you guys actually care about how you guys present yourself and you guys are willing to follow what the trend is at that moment. And you guys are introverts. So you guys look good and you guys present this aura that you guys are very confident, but you don't need to say it. You guys are very humble. Even though we know you guys aren't humble personally, your persona is that way. And it engages an INTJ's child function. Anyways, INTJs love ISFJs. You guys take care of us. You guys are willing to listen to an INTJ and accept that we have disagreements, even though you will never understand us. And you guys are able to do certain things that an INTJ wish we could do that we can't, which is engage with the tribe in a very healthy, emotional way. Thank you, every ISFJ out there, for taking care of INTJs, because we know that INTJs typically don't adopt the ISFJ, that the ISFJ tends to adopt the INTJ. And that's all for this video, folks. Don't forget to support this channel by giving a like, commenting, or subscribing to this channel. I love ISFJs. I can't imagine my life without them. Thank you again for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bye.